But treating something as though you can't ask any questions about it is A, wrong, and B, not my style.
Broadly speaking, how difficult have been the last 2 months in terms of dealing with the whole Enmax issue?
It's not been the easiest thing in the last 2 months, I have to admit that. One of the challenges that we have here is that it's been almost 10 years since the city made a decision not to privatize Enmax, but to treat it as though it were a private sector company. And you know something? 10 years, it's a good opportunity for us to do a strategic review, to have a good question about what's the relationship of Enmax to the city, how do we think of Enmax, what's its risk profile, what's its growth, what's its strategy, and so on. So this is a good opportunity to ask those questions. Those questions have probably been thrust into the spotlight a little more quickly than I would have anticipated before the election. But it's all right, because this is our opportunity to have those questions. Look, selling the asset is not on the table right now, okay? And I certainly have no intention of putting it on the table. But treating something as though you can't ask any questions about it is A, wrong, and B, not my style, as you well know, right? I ask tough questions about everything, and this is no exception. So we're going to continue to ask hard questions, and we're going to get it right. And we're going to get it right for all Calgarians.
Enmax touts how dramatically its revenues have increased over the last number of years. The real question, though, is its earnings. And I'm wondering, are you satisfied with the earnings that Enmax is bringing in compared to the size of the revenues?
The earnings are pretty good, actually. The earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization are quite healthy. And so on that front, they've done quite well. Because basically what happens is that as they grow outside of the boundaries of the city, they get customers in places like Edmonton and Medicine Hat and wherever else. I don't know exactly where they have customers, but throughout the province. And the profit, quote unquote, on those customers flows back to the city, so that's not such a bad thing. The challenge is that their growth strategy requires incurring a bit more risk and a fair bit more debt. And so they're turning into a more leveraged company than they were before. And those are the sorts of questions that we really need to be thoughtful about whether the city is comfortable with the level of risk and the level of debt in their current growth plans relative to the return that we get as a city.
What kind of liability could that pose to the taxpayer? I mean, if things were to go completely awry.
Not that much, because at least this is debt that's being incurred in the name of actual physical assets, right? So we're actually building stuff. So I imagine that a world could occur where everything goes crazy, but then we still got the stuff. So it's not as though we're incurring debt to invest in natural gas trading or something. So at that level, I'm comfortable, but I do want to make sure that this is the right use of that financial capital. Because at the end of the day, although the city hasn't injected any equity into Enmax, we have allowed them to keep the vast majority of their retained earnings to invest in other stuff. So that's money that could have been with the city. So we want to make sure that putting that money there was the right use of those funds.
The pushback from Cliff Friars a couple weeks ago when they released their governance document and compensation details, and this talk about Enmax by publicity was a matter of the competition going after them and so on. I know you were critical of that stance at the time, but I wonder, is the senior executives and the board, are they suffering from some arrogance here in all of this?
I've said many, many times that if you don't want to see it on the front page of the Calgary Herald, don't blame the Calgary Herald. Don't blame the people that told the Calgary Herald. Just don't do it.
Yeah, but does Enmax have that message? Do they understand that message?
I've tried to deliver that message very, very clearly on many, many occasions. I don't know how to be more clear. And I think the message has been received. Because at the end of the day, look, they're right. Of course their competitors are trying to stir up trouble. And of course they've made some powerful enemies. And yes, I've gotten a letter during the election from one of their competitors detailing some of their concerns. But it is what it is. Do you think that just because I got a letter from one of their competitors, it's totally changed my perspective on Enmax? That's ridiculous, right? This is what the free market is like. If you're going to have the benefits of the free market, you can't be protected from your competitors either. So it is what it is.